Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's gonna be a little bit different because we're dealing with this. Not in a bad way. We got some long overdue repairs that need to be done, but they're largely electronic. So that's kind of whatever. But we're gonna go inside actually for the first part of this. I'm going to do my best at doing an updated pseudo install video for the REETwire standalone, if you guys are familiar, for this chassis, as well as the Impreza of the same year, and the SVX up to 2002, I believe. But anyways, so we're going to take a pause here, and we're going to go inside. All right, and we're back. Excuse the mess. It's just life. Anyways, so here's your REETwire ECU. It'll be in a stock box, or housing, if you will. It'll have a built-in map sensor, as you can see here, a data port access. It comes with this cable. It also comes with some vacuum line and this adapter. Now, I didn't know this until I talked to the developer, and this adapter will go into the forward or primary O2 sensor, number one O2 sensor slot, because you're going to unplug that O2 sensor, install a wideband, and then plug this into what will be the IAT sensor, which also comes in the kit here. Just a typical GM sensor. All that'll be inside of the box. This and the cable. That's where I found those, are inside there. But the tubing and the adapter will be outside in the packaging. So that being said, I'll set this aside. You take the screws out, there's 4 of them, or you can take out the 3 and kind of like swing it open on a hinge, if you, depending on how stubborn they are. Mine was pretty stubborn. And take a look inside. I've already began to run the wideband pieces, or the power and ground, which will powers and grounds in here. You see the boards, the factory connection, and you come down here and you can see what this is for. So we got your 96 98 Legacy, like what we got, the Impreza 96 through 99 OBD2 SVX, so not O2 but you know 99. And down in here, I don't know if you can try to get that in the camera as best I can, you'll see the labeling here for O2 sensor / launch control. So the O2 sensor goes on this side. I'm sure launch control provisions over here. And then you got a couple other open ports for other things that the ECU can do. If you go to the REETwire website, there's a rough and dirty install guide. It's a bit out of date, but for the most part, everything is here. The only thing it doesn't cover is it doesn't explain what to do with this. So I figured I'd make a video to kind of explain that. And I'll show you where this goes when we get to that point. Map sensor housing. There's a couple provisions through the firewall we'll go through to run this. Length is not really a super big deal. When you do decide to go to a forced induction application on this chassis, obviously you'll want to put a clip here and on the engine side. But, you know, in that case, the shorter the line, the better. I mean, some would argue it didn't matter. I'm not particularly concerned about it. So I'll set this back here for now. And then data cable, the O2 sensors, and this will install like any other car, like on the GTO, Durango, etc. Now, you'll have to go to Tuner Studio's website and install Tuner Studio MS for your platform. So you go over here, downloads, and then you just pick your operating system. This is an old Windows computer, so I pick Windows. Then you got your Mac stuff, Linux, Android, etc. Once you download that, there's Tuner Studio itself. It's got a bunch of features. The light version, aka the free version, is fairly limited, but it'll get the job done. However, it's only like currently right now, at the time of this video, I want to say it's on sale for about 60 bucks to get the upgrade. So, I mean, that's not a super big deal, nor is it really particularly expensive. Right here, yeah, 70 bucks currently to upgrade to the full version. And I guess there's a partially self-tuning element to it with AI and all that kind of stuff. I won't worry about that right now. For the purposes of this video, is to kind of explain some things that aren't really explained in the instructions. Kind of give you guys a rough idea of what to do, where to get certain things, and how to get it installed so that you can drive the car. So that's the rough and dirty on the ECU. The software, make sure you have a capable laptop. This one's pretty old, but it should get the job done. So pieces that come in it, and then we'll go outside and start to install it here in a second. All right, so we are outside. Got my pile of stuff that I'm gonna take care of first. On the engine bay, we're gonna do the ECU part last because I'm still waiting on a few things and getting some clarification on, because I don't want to show the wrong things necessarily. But in the original video, you have to put in an IAT sensor, which the idle air control valve tube is here. You have the little pointless silencer, so I'll probably put the IAT somewhere around here. Just drill the hole and silicone it. Since we don't need the car right now, to give it time to seal up, I might have a rubber grommet I can put in it so that it seals a little bit better, since that's a screw-in type instead of a pop-in, but we'll figure it out. While we're out here, we'll also run the vacuum line. I'll show you where I run it and how I run it. Then we'll go inside, find a place for the gauge temporarily, and we'll go ahead and run this through the firewall, which this is the main connection for the O2 sensor on the wideband itself. Super simple. Probably use this bulkhead through way we've been using here, and that's the power for the amp and the fuel pump relay that goes all the way back in the trunk area. So see our mess there. So I'll go ahead and drill the hole out for the IAT, then I'll run the wire for the wideband and the vacuum line, and we'll come back and show you guys how it ended up looking. All right, I'm gonna take a pause. I got a pretty significant evolution, I guess, accomplishment up to this point. So I'll share it with you guys real quick before I keep going. All right, so this car is clearly a late Japanese car. I have a WRX little gauge pot for the center that doesn't go with this car, but I guess kind of worked. But the thing is this kid is not a gearhead, not a car kid. So this process is kind of a, whoa, while we're in there, if we're going to fix it, let's do it this way sort of a thing. He could really care less. So I don't want to put anything in his face that's going to distract him that he doesn't really give two shits about. So what I did was I looked around and saw if there was a place I could put the air fuel meter that's a little discreet but visible when I need to get in and make tuning changes, or if the car finds itself turbocharged or something in the near future. So that being said, here's what I did. I took the center console and I test fit everything in place. It comes out with like 6 screws. And what I found was there was quite a bit of room on the centerpiece with the shifter, because the ashtray sits here, the cigarette lighter, which you better not be using, and it's not there. So it wouldn't get in the way, and it's more or less ergonomically correct where it's at. So because when you look towards the right, it's kind of right in your line of view. You don't have to kind of look around this goofy little corner here. And it fits pretty well. I'll show you actually. So there's the AEM. It slides in there. It goes about yay far. See, there's a little bit of a gap here that you can see. You can't see it with the door closed, right? Because the bezel stops it here. They make spacers to fill in this, and I may come up with something to fill this in once I get it all finalized. But it's plenty deep. The gauge will sit plenty out of the way. There's no need for any kind of a crazy bezel or pod holder. Pretty OG, you know, low-key stealth. So you can't see it from outside of the car. It's not in your face, but it is there if you go to, you know, if you're looking for it. That's kind of what I'm going for with this setup. If the car finds itself turbocharged in the future, I'll put a boost gauge up here. I'm pretty sure somebody makes a bezel. If not, I'll figure it out. put a boost gauge up here and the fuel pressure up there. Or since we do have a spot right across from the air fuel, just pop this bezel out, or use a hole saw, drill another hole in the opposite side of it, and run the cables, or run the boost gauge right next door. No big deal. And the reason that works is because down in here, there's really huge cavities to run cable from underneath there and around right here. So all that being considered, it just made more sense to put the air fuel gauge down there, because I am a huge proponent for smarter, not harder. Also, I mean, if it really came down to it and you wanted to put the car back to stock and sell all the aftermarket pieces, one, that hole is easy to cover up, and two, that bezel itself, just the center, is pretty easy to come by to just replace it to cover that. Not even worry about the hole underneath it if it came down to it. So that's my solution for the gauge. I know in the video he kind of had it hanging where the ashtray went, and you know, that kind of works, but I'm a proponent of functional ashtrays, if to collect coins, if anything else, or just put odd and stuff that you might need to keep track of, like small screws or bulbs or whatever. So I didn't want to eliminate the ashtray. I wanted to put it somewhere that made the gauge functional, accessible, but didn't degrade the interior. I'm a huge fan of Japanese car interiors. Well, a lot of cars out of the 90s, but Japanese cars in particular, because they're very well built for the time and they stand the test of time. Like this Subaru is a perfect example. So anyway, now that I got that sorted, I'll run some cables and wires and things, get back to you guys, and hopefully you're ready to put the ECU in. Sorry about that, in-laws called. Anyways, so I got a plan for that. I think that's going to come out pretty good and look fairly OEM, because I mean that's the whole idea. It's because that'll you know, sit down about there at that angle. It'll be nice out of the way, and plenty of coverage over here. So you got these engine harness securement clips here. There's one over here. You can pop these open pretty easily, and so I ran the wideband wire that comes from the sensor down and around into there. I meant to go on the other side of this, but by the time I ran it, whatever, it's too late now, it's inside. So that is where the clutch master cylinder would have gone if it was a stick car. It's not a stick car, so that's an easy throughway. And if you have a stick car, there's another one just to the left, a little smaller hole that you can use as a throughway if need be. I'm just working smarter and not harder, and using what's obvious and simple. So then we'll pull this snug, run that all the way across underneath all this stuff here, where I have the access wire just hanging, and I'll loop it, the extra, I'll loop that wire down around there somewhere and secure that with a zip tie to the engine harness connections from the car, so that it's just out of the way and not near anything hot. And then the primary O2 sensor, whose wire you can kind of see the connection there, we'll swap that out with the O2 sensor here, or the wideband sensor here in a second, and hook that up. And that, outside of hooking up the IAT jumper harness that the kit comes with, this dude here, which will go in the plug that the O2 sensor is coming out of, that being replaced by the wideband, we'll hook that up, and that's pretty much it for outside in the car. That O2 sensor, that plug, run that little bit of wiring. I mean, it's super simple. And honestly, if you're, you know, like a low budget DIY type, or a high school kid, or somebody looking to do this for the first time, this kit is pretty straightforward. I am Honda years old, okay? So Honda, Chrome, Uber Data, DSM Link, that's very similar to what this is. And this particular kit is Mega Squirt software underneath. So it's pretty similar, and it's very straightforward. I can't wait to get into Tuner Studio with the, you know, the $70 version, because that's extremely cheap compared to what I paid for HP tuners for the Durango and the GTO over there. But if you're on a budget, man, this could work. This could work really well, and this ECU can do just about everything. So I'm gonna keep at it, button up out here. I'll show you what I did and why. And hopefully I got a base tune, and a couple of clarifications for the wiring on the ECU side, which I'll show you once we get back to that. All right, welcome back. So I'm going to do my best to walk through the wiki, but I encourage you to read the wiki. This is just like some people are better visual learners than, readers. I'm one of those people that if I can at least see it to get an idea of what I'm doing, it makes what I'm doing a lot easier. So here we go. I have already done the whole process up to this point, but I'll walk you through it so that you guys can see what it is you got to do according to the wiki. And I'll try to be as relatively thorough as possible without confusing you so that you can see, where you got to start. All right, so if you remember, you're going to start here as far as software is concerned and download the Tuner Studio. Excuse me, that's appropriate for your operating system, be it Linux, Mac, or Microsoft. Then you're going to go to this website, wiki.speeduino, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So, you got the home page here. I just started with get started. Press that here. And this will walk you through what you need to download and stuff. But just for the sake of time, installing firmware, because that's obviously what you really care about. You'll read through all of this. It's going to talk about a speedy loader, which you're going to use. That's going to be the in-between for your ECU and the computer as far as what puts the firmware on it. Okay, so you're going to need that. Pick it, for your appropriate operating system. Download that. It's going to look like, so I can show you here. All right, so it's going to look like this once you download it. And what this is it's a list of all the available firmwares. That's going to be the framework of which the tune rides on, or the operating system, if you will, for your PCM. So you're going to, pick it here. This being the latest and greatest, and it just kind of goes, older all the way down here. So, you're going to select the latest and greatest. You're going to choose your port. Now that port is going to be what's on the computer itself. So for me, it was COM3. That's where the data port went through, came all the way around to the back of the ECU or PCM, what you want to refer to it here. So choose your port. So like there's mine. You also have to download this. We'll get to that in a second. That's going to be your communicator for the laptop to talk to your ECU. Anyways, so you can click that, and then it's going to install the operating system. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again. But the other software that I was just telling you about is going to be here, this guy. You don't necessarily need to do anything with it. It just has to be on the computer or your laptop, for everything else to work. But I just downloaded it. I didn't do anything with it. Then the link will be in the description below. Once you do that, you're going to go back to the wiki and just go through the steps. Let's see here. Because it'll tell you, about the speed loader. It'll tell you if you want to do it manually, if you're super high speed, all that good jazz. Go through it. It'll tell you everything you need to know as far as your firmware is concerned and what to do, what, and where. Okay. Once you get that done, you'll go back to a different screen, which will walk you through the setup for the actual tune in Tuner Studio. All right, sorry about that. Phone calls and stuff. So once you get that far, you'll look around. There'll be a link here that says connecting to Tuner Studio. And that'll get you started on the Tuner Studio side, which is this software right here, which we're already done over here, ready for startup more or less, but we're just going to walk back through it. So you'll connect to get to this page, just follow everything. It's nothing different than what I did. You literally follow it all the way through to the T. It'll give you screenshots, let you know what to select, how to select, set up your project process. what files to look for. I mean, they do a pretty good job of making this as, you know, idiot proof as possible, if you will. And then there'll be another link you'll go to. Let me go back here. Configuring your project. And then that'll get you all the way to where I am now in Tuner Studio as far as pretty much getting ready to, you know, start up, right? So that's where I ended up following all of that process. And I got a bass tune from Reese that should work, or at least get me going in the right direction. And now I'm at the point where I'm about to put the ECU in the car, hook up the wideband and everything else. So we'll do all that, and then I'll meet back up with you guys when I'm in the car to kind of show you the finalization of everything prior to key start, and hopefully it starts, but you know how that goes. Also, before I forget, if you're running an AEM unit, they're pretty much all the same wiring wise. I have an AEM 30-4110, 4111, and I think there's like 2 or 3 others that are pretty much the same. So what you're going to do as far as hooking it up in the board is power wire is going to go to the 12 volt reference here on the far side of the board, ground to ground, and then there's going to be another slot that says O2. That's where that white 5 volt reference is going to go. Currently, the blue wire, which is here, oh no, here. The blue wire here is a serial port. That's not a function that's operational on the board at this time. So you're only going to need 3 out of the 4 wires currently. You see the board there's powered up. I just did the firmware deal and all that kind of stuff. You know, you can load the tune and all that on the tabletop or in the car. I decided to do it on the table because it's just easier to deal with. I can, you know, more readily see and, you know, keep track of what I'm doing right there in front of me versus in the car where it can be kind of cumbersome. So that's the option that I took. At this point, we're going to go out there, finalize the wideband hookup, the map sensor hookup, place the ECU where it goes. We're going to put this lid on before we go outside and get ready to hit the key and see what happens. All right, so we're outside in the car, pretty much on the home stretch. All of that is still open because I haven't put the center console back in and ran the last bit of connections, but I'm here in a second. There's the stock ECU. That box actually looks really nice. And then here's our new to us standalone here. Now, here's an observation I made. That's obviously a barb fitting, okay, for the map sensor hose. I got this from O'Reilly's, not sponsored, but I'm going to go ahead and put a little clamp on there. See those little quick pieces? These guys? The appropriate size on there while I have all this out and apart, because naturally aspirated, it's under vacuum. Not naturally aspirated, it's not under vacuum. So putting a little securement clip on that while I got all this apart will make my life a lot easier, because you're likely to forget that there's nothing on there when you go for all the boost and subsequently all the horsepower, and now the little barb pops off under pressure. So it's just kind of an observation I made to go ahead and put something on that while we're here. It may or may not be an issue in the future, but we're already here and I noticed it, so in case we happen to add all of the boost, that's at least one less thing we should not have to worry about. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap these out and finalize a couple of things, and by the time I see you guys again, we should be ready to plug up the laptop and start this thing. All right, so real quick, this is the factory ECU holder. I intend on using it because I don't like the idea of an ECU flopping around down there. And if you see here where I got the wideband cord coming out of the box, there's a bit of an issue. So not a big deal. Got the Sharpie. I marked an area that I'm going to cut out here that should more than compensate for the space that I need. Allow this to slide all the way over so that the mounting screws go where they're supposed to go. Not a big deal. It's just something I noticed I wanted to point out while I was in the process, so that you guys can get as comprehensive of a review as possible of this installation. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this cut with the die grinder, or cutting wheel rather, and clean it up and throw this thing in. All right, all done. Made the hole a little bit big there. It bolted up just fine. I put a smidge of RTV and put like 2 different grommets together to make a seal on that hole. Not that it matters because all of this goes through the PCM, but I wanted it to fit tight and not slide around a whole lot. So I just put a dash on there just so it looked a little bit better, but here we are. But yeah, so there's that. Now everything's bolted in like it should be. And throw this in and finish it up. Alright, so ECU is installed. It's behind that plate, and I didn't realize I didn't record it until at this point, but it's all good. So behind this plate, there are 3 10mm nuts, this one, and there's 2 more, one right here and one about there, that hold that bracket down. Well, the problem is there's that vacuum line barb that's here-ish, and then there's the wideband wire here-ish. That barb runs into what I believe this is a condensate drain for the AC box if you try to bolt it where it goes like this. So I just swung it over just on the other side of the studs on either side and used it to secure it that way. So it's only secured by that nut on that bracket, but it keeps the ECU from flopping around as like solely in here. And then these kind of go down as normal. I left a little bit of slack in this with the zip ties so that I could push this in and make sure that none of this touches, because once the carpet goes down, you're not going to see this. But make sure that you got slack in the vacuum line here on the barb. And this doesn't touch. This is probably about 1/2 inch or more from that barb that the vacuum line goes in, and then the wideband wire here. So there's plenty of space back here you can't see. But plenty of slack, leave plenty of slack in this. I can push this up. So this goes up and around the condensate drain. There's a little void there that both can pass through. And make it nice and loose. Come up here. We'll finalize the wideband. We'll put this carpet back and keep on trucking. So I got the center console back in. I got the wires from the wideband ran and everything. All that's bolted down. When I cut the hole, I had some gaps. So I'm going to try this. Don't judge me. I had it on the toolbox for give it a shot. To close up the gap here, so I didn't have like air, light, or dust coming between the sensor and the hard plastic without having to go out of my way to make fiberglass or something, because it's not that serious. But I figure we'll give this a shot. It looks pretty clean. Can't really see it once it's in the car, and once it hardens, it'll be a little darker maybe. But that's pretty much it. And this cost me nothing, because I had all the tools in the toolbox already. For you DIY types out there, you don't need to have the perfect of everything. Sometimes you got to improvise, and I'm sure somebody's not gonna like what I did, and that's fine. You can be unhappy, but I'm trying to reach the guys out there that have never done this before or just don't have a lot of experience doing this stuff. Sometimes you got to improvise, and for what I need to seal this hole against this gauge without having to spend more money, I bet this will work just fine. So let me pop this in here, throw the O2 sensor in for the wideband, hook all the wires up, power it up, and see what we got. All right, running out of daylight, so hopefully we'll make some fire here in a little second, but here's what we got. This is what it looks like all put back together. So I gotta put some tools away. There's a wideband I haven't tested yet, but we're about to. But that's pretty much the look I'm going for. OEM plus, right? Unsuspecting. Get gapped by the bandwagon, because my kid's in band. Anyways, there's an IAT sensor that should have been cured. I put a little bead of that around the edges when I sock that down all the way. And so real quick, that jumper harness I was telling you about, that's where this goes, and it'll go down here. Let's see if I can get that on camera. This will go down here. You'll see where it goes into the main harness. Let's see, get this light in there a little better. It gets down into the main harness there where the O2 sensor comes out of. Down around, I have it zip tied now, so you can't really see it, but it's right here, that guy. And then this is the wideband. I have that looped around against the harness in the back. This, if you have a turbo car or turbocharged yours, you have to do a little bit different, but there's plenty of loop there to route this however you need. I just hung that there to get it out of the way and get this clear, nice and fit. Just make sure when you pull that O2 sensor wire up that you're clear away from the axle housing, if you can see in there where that comes by the front side of that drive shaft, or drive shaft, half shaft. But that's pretty much it for the install. We're gonna put this thing on the ground and well, see what happens. Okay, so fun fact, you should definitely make sure the data cable, that guy, is connected to the ECU before you put it all back together. So here we are. But in case you did not realize, Reese puts plenty of cord in this kit. So what I'm going to do, put this all back together, and then when I'm not using it, I'll roll this up nice and neat and kind of tuck it just up underneath here and out of the way, so teenagers and their clueless passengers can't nab this cord and step all over it and everything, and it'll be nice and easy to get to right in that corner there. So now that I have caught that, before getting any further, I'm going to put this back together and continue smartly so I can get this thing started. Alright, so we are obviously losing daylight, as you can see. Here comes something. We're not necessarily worried about the car starting. It might start. This is just the base tune that I was given to use as a function check for the PCM and the whole process to go through. So we're going to hit the key on power, and the wideband should light up. And it is. Okay. So the wideband's lighting up. If you didn't know, the AEMU goes come calibrated. You don't have to run them through the calibration sequence. You can if you so choose, but as per AEM, they come ready to go out of the box. So that's our wideband doing its thing. It's not reading anything, so it's going to go dash, dash, dash. There's that. So all the lights and stuff still work. So let's see if it'll start. If it doesn't start, like I said, it's not a big deal. We're just trying to make sure all the steps were completed. Okay, one more time. So it didn't start, it did almost start. So from what I can tell, pretty much everything is working as it should. We know the ECU's got power because the wideband's got power, and everything else. So now let's go back, get the laptop, make some adjustments, and go. All right, so we're back with this car several days later. Long story short, yeah, I did end up getting it running that night. I had to go back into Tuner Studio and recalibrate everything, all the gauges and sensors and stuff, to make sure that the ECU was reading everything within the proper parameters. I also had to recalibrate the wideband receiving end on the ECU side, and I had to put in a custom PID, or custom elements for the wideband as far as the voltage range and the reference range for the Tuner Studio, so that way what the wideband was putting out, Tuner Studio was interpreting correctly, so by association the ECU was interpreting correctly. I ended up getting it running, and I fought with it for a little bit. It did drive a little bit the following day, because it other than having a rough idle, all the parameters are stock because the engine is mostly stock, and timing and stuff was conservative, so I just wanted to make sure everything functioned as it should. Then it wouldn't start. So that's where I'm at. As far as the install is concerned, everything's good. Everything functions, ECU works, wideband works, the placement's good, all that stuff. It's just that for whatever reason, I'm on the tuning side of it, and I'm having an issue. I have to figure out if it's a mechanical issue or if it's a tuning issue. But other than that, I'm super satisfied with the process. The install wasn't that bad. Tuner Studio works pretty good, but if you're a lot rusty, a lot really rusty like I am, it can be a bit challenging. And so I'll probably do another video later once I solve the issue I have, going over how I found it, what it was, and what I ended up having to do. So for you guys in the same position, you can have as much DIY information for somebody who's done it with this platform, because not a whole lot of people are messing with these. You have some help. So that's it. And as always, thanks for watching.